Hello, it is the Daily Craig here. It is Monday, March the 28th. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Daily Craig Sports Show. What a fun sports weekend, right? There was so much going on. The center of the universe was focused squarely on college basketball, rightfully so. And fortunately on one hand for me, but unfortunately for the nation, I guess, the Cinderella story of the Peacocks, the old St. Pete's Peacocks, finally ended yesterday at the hands of my North Carolina Tar Heels. So I was probably one of the only few in the nation cheering for the boys in baby blue over the Peacocks, but you have to tip your hat and you have to not only respect, but you have to kind of admire what St. Peter's did. It is a remarkable run that they had the last couple weeks. Their first game of the season at home only had like 440 people at the game. If you look at their gym, some of the gyms in Indiana, the high school gyms in Indiana, look not just equally as big, but maybe even bigger than what they play in. It was an absolutely remarkable story that they not only took care of Kentucky, Murray State that had a fantastic year that was really kind of rolling into the tournament. And then Purdue, here locally, everybody's losing their minds because Purdue, another team that was number one in the nation, they didn't even win their league. They didn't win the league tournament. They didn't go out of the Sweet 16. What a huge disappointment for those Purdue fans. But it almost looked like North Carolina just kind of said, we're not dealing with this. They took ownership of the game, ran away. They were just so big. And the question is, why didn't Purdue do the same thing? Purdue, when they got the lead, stopped doing what they were doing. And they just did not change or adapt as they needed to win that game. They were miles better than St. Peter's. And now one of the seniors is saying that they didn't respect them and they weren't well prepared. Well, you played last weekend and then you played on Friday. So what were you doing all week? Just patting yourself on the back, Sweet 16, high five? I mean, if you're a Purdue basketball fan, you've got to look and say, what are we doing? And I just heard a comparison on the radio. They sound like they're Iowa football. They're good to a point, but they just can't jump over that final hurdle. And it's one of those things where this was the team. They've got a kid that's going to be a top 5 draft pick. They've got 2 absolute monsters down low. They've got 3-point shooters everywhere. And they can't get out of the Sweet 16. When Matt Painter finally gets there and busts the roof off this streak, they haven't even been to a Final Four since I've been alive. I'm 41. I'm going to be 42 but when they take the court next. They haven't been to a Final Four since I've been alive. And this is absolutely unbelievable, the talent that they get. Number one in the nation, always consistently one of the top 2 or 3 favorites for the Big Ten. And it's not just a Purdue problem, it's a Big Ten problem. It really is, because these teams beat the living crap out of each other. And really, they have one title to show from it. They have a good run by Michigan a couple times. They have one good run by IU back even when I was there in 02, 03, whatever it is. But Wisconsin here and there, makes a run. But ultimately, there's only 3 or 4 teams in the Big Ten that are making runs. Yes, you have 9 teams in the field. That's cool. But by the third game, 2 are left. Michigan and Purdue. I mean, come on. This is something where the Big Ten has got to figure it out. And it's not like the coaches can come together and say, hey, we're going to do this, or hey, we're going to do that. And that's not what they should do. But one team's got to make a change. One team has got to say, we're going to get more athletic. We're going to get 3-point shooters. We're going to get big. We're going to focus on scoring. And Purdue does that at times, but they still rely on their defense. What happened the other night was St. Peter's was just making shot after shot after shot. Yesterday they weren't. And you can compare it and say, well, did North Carolina have a hand in their face a little bit better than Purdue? Well, sort of, but not really. The closeout and the switching was probably a little bit better by North Carolina. Excuse me. They kind of put them in a panic mode, a scramble mode, way more than, hey, we were here to run our offense. St. Peter's also dictated the pace. And Purdue's fine with that pace. You slow it down, and that's good. But Ivy struggled. I think he got well panicked and struggled. And the shooting just wasn't there lately. So what a disappointment for Purdue. North Carolina goes on to the Final Four. They're averaging a Final Four once every 4 years. I am absolutely spoiled. I grew up a Purdue fan, went to IU, but Carolina's been my team since I was 3 or 4 years old. I don't know if it's the color or what it was, but for some reason, when the game was on when I was a little guy, I was attracted to their team, and I've been obsessed with them ever since. So they're my team. I love them. And I'm very happy with Final Four. I don't like that we're playing Duke, but I kind of in the back of my mind like the opportunity of beating Duke on Coach K's last game at Cameron, their home stadium, and then sending Coach K into retirement. So I really kind of like that idea and hope that happens. But we'll see what happens. Duke is a better team. Carolina's playing really well right now, but Duke is just, they're loaded with lottery picks. They're a really, really good team. They're so athletic. And if North Carolina is hitting shots and playing defense with a little bit of passion, then it'll be a really good game. So the first time was not like that, and Duke won by 50. So the other side, we got Kansas and Villanova. What a fantastic game. I mean, I was talking yesterday. I guess Villanova is that new blue blood in the next that we've had for the last 10 years. But who else can you think of? UCLA or Kentucky? Kind of those are the two other blue bloods that we would throw in here. So what a historic Final Four. The amount of wins, the historic coaches that have been at all these universities. It'll be a great time. It'll be good all week, kind of leading up to it on Saturday. That Kansas team, Miami was good. They're big, they're long, they're athletic. They were making shots. Their defense was smothering. And then all of a sudden, Kansas said, yeah, okay, let's go. And that first half looked like a JV game, and the second half looked like a varsity game. And they just turned it on. The Kansas Avalanche was real, and they just demolished them. And Houston pulled Houston in the finals from last year. They were one of a million in the three-point range against Villanova. Villanova got the win. They're such a good, solid team. So Jay Wright is a really, really good coach. So it'll be a good Final Four. It'll be fun to see what happens. It'll be great to watch it in New Orleans. I just hope that it's not a Duke Coach K obsession for a week. Yes, it's his last tournament, which is big. It's historic, but Hubert Davis is first. I think it's Jay Wright's, third, fourth maybe. Bill Self's got a chance to get his second title. There's a lot at stake here, and it's going to be a really, really good, fun time leading into the weekend. Okay, I also have not talked to you since the madness of the NFL happened last week. We got Matt Ryan going to the Colts. I wanted Derek Carr. That was my guy from the very beginning that I think would be a huge addition to this team and a really, really good fit. My second pick was going to be Matt Ryan, and it was kind of an obvious selection even 3 months ago because the Falcons aren't going anywhere. He's getting older. This was like a perfect situation for him to request a trade or find a trade partner that would appear to be in a chance to win a championship. So this was a really, really kind of obvious trade. It was there for a while. I can't believe it really wasn't even discussed until kind of at the 11th hour. But I think Matt Ryan still's got some good football to play. He did decrease his salary cap by a lot for the Colts, but that's fine. Quarterbacks are expensive, right? Matt Ryan is one that has been to a Super Bowl. Obviously, you know what happened there. If you look at his numbers the last few years, it haven't been great, but his team's been awful. I mean, who's he throwing the ball to? You can't rely on just throwing to a tight end time after time because they're going to double cover him. So I think it's going to be real interesting with him. He's really, really good when he has a good running game. So hopefully they continue to turn around and hand the ball to Jonathan Taylor a lot. The Colts still need some pieces. They still need some receiver help, some tight end help, probably some secondary help. So I keep going back to this is a team that lost to Jacksonville for a chance to go to the playoffs. That cannot be overshadowed. It's one of those things that's going to be there the next few years until they break through, until they, get to the playoffs again. They did this trade to win the division. Tennessee's got Derrick Henry coming back. They're really, really good, but they were the 1 seed and they flamed out real quick. So do they trust Tannehill? Is Tannehill going to go Tannehill like he did at the end of the year? Jacksonville is coming. They really are. Doug Peterson is a heck of a coach. They've got a good quarterback. I know that Trevor Lawrence was up and down, but he was a rookie. They've added a lot of pieces. They're coming quick. Houston, I don't know what they're doing. Who knows? One of those things where thankfully Houston's not really getting it together. They've got a lot of draft stock this year and in the future. They had to bail on Deshaun Watson. That just wasn't going to happen down there. So we'll see what happens with Houston. But really, it's the Colts and Tennessee, and Jacksonville's coming. So this is a good opportunity for the Colts to add a little bit, hopefully pick up some really good pieces in the draft. The thing that scares me is now we're being told by management, we'll fill the rest of the roster in the draft. And that's fine, but you can't have 3 rookie receivers with a vet quarterback and not expect any growing pains or issues or anything like that. There were a ton of good receivers in the market that didn't really go for that much. So what were we doing? So the whole free agency with the Colts and Chris Ballard is very, very frustrating. Even the players are getting frustrated. I'm a big Pat McAfee fan, and he was all over it. Hey, what are we doing here? So I'm very thankful he got the quarterback. I think Matt Ryan can be here. I think your goal is 2 years, right? Anything more than that, you're probably going to see a decline. But if you say, give us 2 years, and he restructured his deal, if you give us 2 years of your top-level best football, Colts should be in the playoffs both times. They really should. They don't have a quarterback. It just felt like it was an adult in the room. I know everybody said that, like it was a mature, seasoned vet quarterback, that's what he is. But you hope when he has the ball at his own 5-yard line in a tie ball game in a minute and a half, he's not twirling around, throwing it upside down with his eyes closed backwards that ended up in a pick 6 and you lost the game. You hope when you go on the road against a division rival to clinch a playoff spot, the first few passes aren't 6 miles over the receiver's head for an interception, or you check into a run play when 10 people are in the box. It's just doing the easy things that results in positive yardage, right? That's all we need here. That's all we need to do here. The defense is a turnover machine. They've added Gus Bradley. They added John Fox today as their coach. They are set up for success. How do you prevent yourself from kind of crapping the bed or shooting yourself in the foot? And that's what Carson Wentz did with this team. If you're not in Indianapolis, you look at the stats and say, oh, he was fine. His turnover to touchdown to turnover ratio, blah, 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 blah. He never made the right decision. Or when he did, it was just barely got by. The throw in Arizona was his best of the year. He's running left, threw across his body right through a little window. But now looking back at it, if that was a little bit this way, it was a pick. This way, it was a pick. His decision-making is just not what it needs to be to lead a team. He's very, very athletically gifted, but there's something going on in his head that thinks that he has to win every game. And I think Matt Ryan, hopefully with his experience, has understood, I don't have to win the game. I just need to manage the game and maintain the game. Now, I'm not saying that you need to be a game manager, something like that, but I think that he has a lot of upside for this team to hopefully get them where they need to be. And the other news was the Tyreek Hill trade, going from Kansas City to Miami. That's where he wanted to go all along. He already signed the contract, all this stuff. I think this is a stupid trade for both sides. I really do. I think the Chiefs... Well, let me restate that. I think this is a dumb trade for Miami because you can tell me all day you trust your quarterback, but the previous regime did not. And what was the reasoning for that? Is it because they wanted to lose? Were they getting paid for that? Is it because they had other quarterbacks in mind? Were they really trying to tank and get a high draft pick? What was going on there? We don't know the truth, and I don't know if we really ever will, but they have major reservations about Tua. Now, the new coach came in, and he's our guy. We love him, everything like that, high five. But is he proved that he is ready yet? And that's a bad way to say it, but he's got all these weapons now. He's got probably the most prolific game changer in the NFL right now. So what's going to happen? If Tyreek Hill's going 10 yards across the middle, it's just going to take a little flick of the wrist to get it to him. Is it actually going to get to him? Is it going to lead him? Is it going to be in the perfect spot? Or is it going to be Carson Wentz 20 yards down the field behind him, anything like that? That's the question for the Dolphins. You let up a lot for one playmaker. And if you think you're that close, then that's cool. But look at your division, the Bills. Are you going to beat the Bills now? Are you going to beat the Patriots? Those are both playoff teams. The Jets, they added a lot, and they're coming. Is Zach Wilson the guy? I don't know. You don't know. But I feel like the Dolphins are making these big, splashy moves to finish third place in their division. I really do. And hopefully it turns out and it works out better. But I don't know. I don't know about that huge addition, like that. And the Chiefs, they've already kind of replaced him with a couple other people, not as, game breaking, but Valdez-Scantling, a couple other people, but obviously he had issues there, and he wanted the contract re-signed, and they said no. What do they know that we don't know? Is he starting to slow down? Is that injury worse than what it is? Or is it something where they just said he wore out his welcome, we got to move on? So it's a very interesting thing. Are the Chiefs still the Chiefs? The Chiefs are the Chiefs because they're a big, huge, dynamic offense that is kind of that greatest show on turf type thing, right? They're throwing it all over the place. They're going to outrace you. Speed, you can't teach speed. That's the quote, right? So it's an interesting dilemma for the Chiefs. And that division just got a lot better. So it's going to be a game. It's going to be a fight every single week out there. The Chiefs have been to 3 straight AFC Championship games. I don't know how you mess with that, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what they do. So yeah, it's going to be one of those things where we'll see what happens long term. But I don't like the trade for the Dolphins. I really don't. The Chiefs got everything back, and if he didn't want to be there, then this is what had to happen, right? But I just if I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm excited because you got a playmaker now. We're ready to roll. But has Tua ever shown that he is that guy at a professional level that can do the easy things to lead you to victory? And I don't know. It's kind of a make and break year for him, right? If he does not perform well, then he's out of there. I mean, this is the year. Now you got the weapons. You got to do it. All right. So other stuff happening in the sports world this morning. The NFL annual meeting kicked off a few hours ago. Actually, last night it got kicked off. So we'll see what happened. And John Mara, the owner of the Giants, did talk about their support for Daniel Jones, said that they have not done enough around him to allow him to succeed. So we'll see what happens with that. There's always some fun stuff that happens with these NFL meetings, rule changes, adaptations, things like that. So we'll see what happens. Albert Pujols is back to the Cardinals, $2.5 million contract. This is kind of his retirement tour, back where it started. This is a great situation. It's awesome. It's great. It gives the St. Louis fans an opportunity to say thank you and then him to say thank you back. So it'll be a really, really good year, I'm guessing. The numbers won't be there. We know that. He's not going to be a huge star on the team, but he's going to be very, very popular, help with their PR, and that's a very, very good move at a affordable rate, and good for them. I'm glad that this marriage came back together because he was a star there. He was their guy. They all turned on him when he took the money and ran, and now he's back to end his career, and hopefully they get him in some fences and have a good, fun kind of retirement, send you off to the sun season. Kendall Marte signed an extension with the Diamondbacks. He is their centerpiece, so so that's a good kind of extension for a team that really isn't going anywhere. It's a 4-year deal it's a 2-year extension basically. So he's there through 2026. So that's good. I like these kind of smaller market teams that don't like to spend, keeping their own in-house. So that's really, really good. Let's see here. Shelby Miller, a former All-Star pitcher, signed by the Yankees. San Francisco Giants, 107 wins last year. They're not happy with that because they didn't win the World Series. So what happens there? Dave Roberts, big contract extension from the Dodgers, and Vlad Jr. is your kind of front runner to win the MVP. But that's it for the world of baseball. Spring training is going on. We're going to probably get some, more news on a few more pickups and a few more transactions this week. They've got one more full week before next week is when opening day starts. So we got one more week of spring training, figuring out who's whom and where they fit. That's it. Just kind of looking around, and it kind of sounds like the whole sports world's still talking about basketball. We're still talking about the owners meeting going on in the NFL, and we'll see kind of what happens there with any moves or any changes or anything like that. So that's it. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the show for Monday, March the 28th, almost the end of March into April, which means Final Four is this weekend, and then the Masters is next week. So it'll be great. and then we're off to the races. So spring is hopefully around the corner here in Indianapolis. It is a balmy 23 degrees right now, and we're going to hit 41. So we could use some spring weather. Later in the week, we're going to hit 70, thankfully, but it is what it is at this time of year. So thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.